But first to the balloon, and I guess we can call it Object Gate now too, because we've got one Chinese spy balloon that we know about and then four objects. The president has been largely silent. The U.S. shooting down 4 objects over an 8-day period. And according to multiple reports, he's planning to address the American people at some point today. For more on this, let's welcome back in commentary editor for the Washington Times, Kelly Sadler, and Project 21 National Advisory Board member and radio host, Christopher Arps. Great to have you both back on. Chris, is this too little too late? How important is this address today? And then just a third part of it, do you expect this to be an address to the American people, or do you expect this to be, say, maybe in the briefing room and an address to the media?
I think it'll be an address to the media. Look, this episode is going into its second week, and the president has been relatively silent about it. We don't know what these things are. They could be spy balloons. They could be objects from other nations. And I think what concerns the American people is, one, the president hasn't said anything about it. And this latest balloon, which was found at 20,000 feet, it may affect domestic air travel. I'm getting on a plane here in a couple of hours. And, I'm kind of concerned, will there be balloons in the pathway of my flight? So the president needs to address the nation. People are anxious. We don't know what's going on, and the president needs to talk to us.
Chris, that's a great point. The first balloon shot down February 4th was in the upper stratosphere, so right around 70,000 feet. The 3 over the weekend, 40,000 feet and then 20,000 feet. So that's 40,000 feet would be the ceiling of commercial air travel. Yeah. But 20,000 feet, that's the sweet spot right there.
Yeah,
Scary.
Great point. I didn't even think of that. Kelly, I think what worked for President Biden before when he was campaigning, he hid in the basement, as a lot of people say, and they've been able to deflect a lot, right, between the Hunter Biden laptop and then we even had the classified documents. And the way the administration works is they just avoid. They don't talk about it and hope it will go away. But it just seems that the last couple of crises between the documents that people keep asking about, but also now we have this, and even the mainstream media is saying, why is he not talking to us?
Yeah, I mean, this speech is long overdue, and let's hope it is a speech to the nation, where he talks about his administration's policy toward China and the Chinese threat and how we're going to have to decouple our economies. And while that might be hard, China has been spying on us for a long time, and they are our #1 adversary in the world. He should have done this at the State of the Union after the first balloon was seen traversing across the United States of America, which heightened concerns. And why are they shooting down all of these low-level objects in the sky, and what are they? I know that the intelligence community likes to keep their intelligence top secret. Congressional members have just been being briefed on this issue. But Biden can make this a larger speech talking about U.S.-China relations, and I think that this speech is long overdue.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kelly. I didn't even think about the State of the Union. I don't know if you heard Fred Fleitz, but he said, Sunday during the Super Bowl, he could have reached 100 million Americans and talked about this and framed the message any way he wanted. Really, 2 missed opportunities in less than a week. By the way, just back to that graphic that we just had up showing the size of one of the balloons that was shot down over the weekend. It's about the size of a small car, right? That was over Alaska. That was the one that the F-22 Raptor missed with a Sidewinder missile. That is, I think, bad for us. These Sidewinders aren't supposed to miss, especially something the size of a small car. It apparently missed, and then they sent out Mark Milley, and he said no, the missile went into a safe area. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why didn't they do this with that first balloon, Chris, that drifted west to east all the way over the continental United States before they shot it 12 miles off the coast of South Carolina? What's the difference between that balloon and then these objects?
And it almost makes me think that's why the administration and the President Biden doesn't want to address this issue, because we learned yesterday or the day before that we were tracking this balloon ever since it left its base in China. We've watched it cross the Pacific Ocean. We watched it cross into Alaska, into Canada, and we finally shot it down a week later. So maybe the administration doesn't have a good answer for that, and that's why there is the delay.
All right, Joe Biden yesterday continuing his post-State of the Union victory lap, according to Democrats. Here's Joe Biden yesterday on our economy, which, according to the president, is in great shape.
My dad used to have an expression, for real. He said, Joey, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. And he meant it. Because of you, my economy is working. It's a stark contrast to our Republican friends who are doubling down on the same failed politics of the past.
So, Kelly, the president out there after getting a really bad inflation report, inflation now 6.4%. The Fed has a target rate about 2%. When he took office, it was 1.4%. You know, that famous malaise speech, Kelly, you follow history closely, that malaise speech from Jimmy Carter. He never said the word malaise in that speech, but now we just think of Jimmy Carter as this sort of gray 4-year period, you know, the Iran hostage crisis. We think about that when we think about Jimmy Carter. Is the same thing kind of happening to Joe Biden? Because now even when he's talking about something that's supposedly going to be good news, I'm still depressed.
Yeah, no, I mean, his administration is incredibly tone deaf, and the president is incredibly tone deaf, because no matter how many times he wants to tell us our economy is great, you just go into the grocery store, you buy some chicken, you buy some eggs, you see your grocery bill that was almost double what it was when he first came into office. And no matter how many times he wants to tell us this economy is great, you know, people are going into their savings to cover their everyday costs. They're not contributing to their retirement funds. They're putting more of their expenses on credit cards. And the housing market is stalling with interest rates going higher. The Fed is likely to keep raising interest rates because of these bad inflation numbers. So there is no real good news here. And I just don't understand why he just thinks that telling us that the economy is good is going to convince Americans that it actually is.
Yeah, Chris, to Kelly's point, I don't understand why he doesn't just say, you know what, it's tough right now. Go, you know, eggs are up, electric bills are up, all of that, and then talk about how he's working to make it better. But instead, if anything is bad, he continues to blame Trump. But the fact is that people don't believe him. And will they continue this message, I guess, is my main question, when the reality is you go to the grocery store and you pay your bills, and that's not what he's saying.
Yeah, I think the president and the administration's plan is who are you going to believe, us or your lying eyes? And they're going to continue to tell us that things are going well. You know, I've said this before on here about President Biden. You know, they don't get him out among the people. When he leaves on Friday, he goes to his beach house in Delaware, and that's it. You know, even President Jimmy Carter, when he was doing very poorly in the polls, and I remember this in 1980, that he took a trip starting in Minnesota, down the Mississippi River, all the way down to New Orleans. They did a stop in St. Louis, and even though the president wasn't very popular, hundreds of thousands or thousands of people came out to greet the president. That's what this administration needs to do. He just seems like he's very out of touch, and he doesn't talk to us.
All right, Kelly, Chris, we'll pick this back up top of the hour. I want to get into Joe Biden. He's going to have his annual routine physical today. Joe Biden, 80 years old. And for anyone 80 years old, you know that, look, I just turned 40 and had a physical, and things aren't as routine as they were when I was 20. And it's the same when you're 80. Will Joe Biden take a cognitive exam? And will we get the results of that? We'll get into that top of the hour. Kelly, Chris,
40.
Thank you. Is that good or bad, Chris?
You look great.